it feel like to come across the finish line as the first finisher of this event after, reaching for that spot for so long?
I don't know. Yeah, it just feels more like a dream than it actually happening, and now it's a memory, so it still feels like a dream. So, like, I just feel more present here and kind of look forward to still just moving on.
Yeah.
I mean, after my Western States wins, I'd always just disappear in the San Juan, so out of service. So it's not as easy, and everywhere has self-service.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I need to enjoy it and savor it a little more. But
well, one of the first things I saw when you're watching the last couple of hours, last 2 or 3 hours of the race, and still not a foregone conclusion when you are running for 171 kilometers. Still not a foregone conclusion until you're over the finish line. Like, anything can happen. A ligament can break, a muscle can tear, and it can completely stop you in your tracks. And especially when, like Jim, it was only 15-20 minutes in the end, and for a long time it was sort of 5 to 10 minutes between him and Zach. So when he crossed the finish line, I didn't see him celebrate, I just saw relief. And it's a funny thing, but that will be, when he initially went over to UTMB, there's not a doubt in my mind, after speaking to him, after meeting him, that he wouldn't have been going for anything else but first place. Like, it's just that character. So I remember racing with him in 2015, and we'd done two laps of a 10k course, and we were going to run 100k, and we were at world record 100k pace. There was a group of about 10 of us, and he just shot off the front and ran the next 2 laps in well under world record pace, and then the wheels fell off at 50k for him. I think he still finished, but for him to, every single race he goes to, he will be going to win. There'll be no other kind of, just try to make podium, just try to make top 5, try to make top 10. It's a different mentality than like a regular runner or a regular person can think into. Like, second for him is failing, third for him is failing. Will get involved and sort of be part of the celebrations and know that it's a stepping stone. I think fourth last year he came, and that will be a stepping stone, and you'll be able to kind of take the lessons and put them into next year. But for him, crossing the finish line, I just saw relief. And so when you see that interview, and it's kind of sad in a way, because that's how a lot of sports people are, and especially runners. Because if you're a pro cyclist, you're racing for 80, 90, 100 days a year, racing. Plus every day, you're pretty much riding pretty much every day as a professional cyclist. As a professional runner, and especially marathon runner or ultra runner, you get to race between 2, if you're Eliud Kipchoge, and 4 or 5 races a year. Some of them, Courtney, we saw do something amazing in this year at kind of Western States, then 3 weeks later at Hard Rock, then I think it's 6 weeks later at UTMB. That's unheard of, and it's another discussion altogether. But when you see that with Jim, it's kind of like, he wants to be in the moment, he wants to be present, he wants to be enjoying it, and he just mentioned there at the end that he should maybe savor the moment, and he should, because you speak to anybody who's retired in sport, and they always wish they would have enjoyed the highs more than they did. But when they're completely in it, and it's fascinating, when they're completely in it, it literally, you finish, and then you're thinking about the next objective. And we all know that it's the wrong way to think. Whether you're kind of trying to do something special in sport, in business, in your work, whatever you're passionate about, we all know that that's the wrong way to feel. And that we should savor the moment, and that will make it more enjoyable for us, and it will make it more sustainable long term. And with an interview like that, there's part of me thinking that we need characters in the sport, and Jim is an amazing character. Like most people, that I spoke to this week, and we were talking about who do you think is going to win. You were in different camps, and they were either against Jim or they were for Jim, and they loved the kind of attitude, the racing attitude. A lot of them were for Zach. And, you know, a lot of them were supporting their own countrymen, and Matthew Blanchard, I think he's French, but I can't remember. And so they want their own people to do well, their own French people to do well. But they love Jim's kind of gung-ho method. 50% do. And you want that as an athlete. That's what you want in sport. You want characters. We've seen UFC, MMA explode because it's created characters in the sport. This is what Ironman has done so well in triathlon. It's created these interviews around, so you get to know a lot deeper than just what the person is thinking around sport and the person is feeling, the athlete is feeling around sport. It's much more into their personal life and into kind of where they live, where they're from, what the background is. And you need to know that. People need to know that to grow an audience. You need to know a lot more than just data. And I think that's sometimes where cycling falls down. Football will always be big because of kind of, essentially it's scientific, but essentially it's because anything can happen. The amount of outcomes within, you know, split seconds, within 10 seconds is incredible compared to what can happen in running, compared to what can happen in cycling. But I guess cycling for me, it's been a really impressive and exciting couple of years, but once you get people media trained and they're kind of giving you the same answers and you're not getting the characters out, I think it's the wrong way to go. So you see that interview with Jim, you want to see more, enthusiasm, but equally it's the day after the guy has just ran for nearly 20 hours, set a course record, or, you know, the course changes all the time, but set a fastest time, and won the race fifth chance. So for me, those questions would have been all about the persistence, the resilience, the drive, the dedication, the commitment to getting over there. Like, so it's the athlete's responsibility to make that character and just be genuine. If you're an athlete watching this, just be genuine. Don't try to create a character. We've seen that happen in UFC. We've seen people try to copy the blueprint that Conor McGregor made and try to be Conor's, and it's cringeworthy to watch somebody try to be something they're not. So you've got to be yourself. But you've got to realize that you've got to give something of yourself to people more than what you want, usually more than what you want, and that's the trade-off. Unless you're going to win everything, unless you're going to be amazing. And Eliud Kipchoge is a perfect example. He could just be an amazing winner, and we've won 12, 13 marathons on the road, and you know, financially secure. Doesn't have to do anything. Wouldn't have to go to a press conference. Wouldn't have to go to an interview. The reason why we like him is, and this has been an issue with African athletes over the years, is we don't see much more. Like we always have seen it in the West, I guess, as they're in it for the money, they're in it for the business. But when you go deeper and you sort of see that smile of Eliud's, you kind of relate to what he's kind of suffered through, and then the elation at the end of race, the way he celebrates with his family, the way he will, how he's learned English. His mum's a teacher. And the way that he interacts with the public, and the way that he interacts with, and what Nike have done for him in terms of, like, you know, can you run 500 meters or 800 meters at Eliud Kipchoge's marathon pace? And to see that happening on a treadmill, it's entertaining. The way that Eliud, when you speak to Eliud, he's ridiculously calculated with his words, but really wise, really concise. And this is in a second or third language, maybe, when he's speaking English. You get a really, really strong sense that he's wise, and he kind of controls and manages that group that he's part of, the NN Ring Group, I think it is. And he gives that feedback from the shoe feedback, and he gets everybody involved, and will tell people off, I'm told, when they're not giving the right feedback in terms of the shoes, so that Nike can go off and build even faster shoes. And he understands the importance of that. So it takes mentality, but yeah, Jim at another time definitely would be more entertaining, but just come off the back of something, and I think he just puts it together really, really well there, where I don't know what I'm feeling, you know. Yeah, that's a difficult. I'm just kind of like, I'm probably knackered. I probably didn't sleep much last night. He probably went out afterwards. A lot of obligations. A lot of people want to talk to you. It's exhausting, mentally exhausting after what he's just done. But then the amount of people that want to speak to you, and then the next day you wake up and like you're in that bubble of Chamonix. There's journalists everywhere, and they want a piece of it. Everyone wants a piece of it. Everyone wants a selfie. Everyone wants a signature. Everyone wants something. It's the winner, and people knew him before that anyway. And now he's just done something magnificent. As he just said, he wants to he would usually, after Western States, go to San Juan, get out of a cell phone signal, and just kind of collect his thoughts and think about the next goal. Can he do that in France? Like, probably not, as you just said. I'm sure you can turn your phone off, but I get what he means. And so, yeah, it's, we need characters in sport, and certainly in athletics. I think we're doing better in athletics, in shorter distances, and you can be more present. You can be doing more 1500 meter races every season. We're watching Inga Britson's kind of race sort of every other week, it seems. The top athletes from Josh Kerr just won the World Championships 1500 meters. We're seeing these guys competing all the time, and as long as you don't get injured and you have some continuity with your racing, then you can put some great results together and you can become a character in the sport. And that's good. But it's as much to do what you do in the race as it's as much to do afterwards and before, and kind of how you relate to the public. And like I've said before, you kind of want to go into a hole before and just like bury yourself and do everything perfect. But if you don't go out there and see the media, there's also something missing there, and it's going to affect kind of how well you do in the sport financially. But it's also a chicken and egg situation. You need the results to get the sponsors, and you need the kind of eyeballs on you and interested in your character in order to get the sponsors as well. So it's a juggling act, and it's nobody's really kind of, I suppose, getting it right. But Courtney's interview was fantastic, and it's so impressive, like what she's achieving. So that's putting more and more eyeballs on the women's sport, which is fantastic as well.